the latest episode of The Lisa Pezik Show, a podcast that, even though it's named after my name, it has absolutely nothing to do with me. It's about the wonderful guests that I bring on and the conversations that we have about what's going on in the world. What's going to move your life forward? What's going to move your business forward? And I love these kinds of stories that you're going to hear today about connection and hope and gratitude and really owning all parts of your story and really connecting with people in the most authentic way. As we're filming this podcast, we are still in the thick of the pandemic happening and a lot of uncertainty and a lot of craziness just going on, where I think we're missing people, we're missing connection, we're missing authenticity. And I just love this story that's going to be shared today around really being yourself and really hope that life can get better. And things can get better, and dark days you can leave behind you, and you don't have to go through things alone. So today I have with me Vivianne Knebel. Knebel?
Right, Knebel.
Oh, Knebel. I
yes,
apologize.
You got it.
I murdered your name. She has a book that just came out, and I want to tell you all about her. So she was born an illegitimate child in the wake of World War II in Berlin, Nazi Germany, to a single mother, and her options were limited and her future looked bleak. She experienced poverty, cold, hunger, and was even driven to the point of committing suicide. To seek out a better life, she immigrated to Canada as a teenager, but her misfortunes didn't end there. However, in response to a miraculous intervention, I cannot wait until you hear this, she decided to preserve her life and keep moving forward. After this incident, Vivianne met a fellow German immigrant, Wieland. Am I saying Wieland's name right?
Yes, Wieland.
Yes. Who, I love your accent. I can't say it as good as you, who eventually became her husband. But even more than that, he became a catalyst for change in her life. His belief in her is what helped her see the true immeasurable value of her life. Now, she went on to play a key role in his business venture, and together they built a better future for each other. Since then, Vivianne has run a marathon, learned to pilot a plane, and even beat cancer. She found a greater sense of spirituality and wants to share her story with the world to remind people there's always a reason to keep moving forward. Ooh,
absolutely. Yes.
Hello. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Lisa. Just glad to be here and be able to have a voice and talk about my experiences and the hope I wish for other people. So I'm very glad to be here.
I'm so happy to have you sharing your story. It's so profound. And tell us a bit take us back to the beginning, what life was like and what started this journey for you of where the change and transformation happened for you. So take us back to the very beginning.
Well, the very beginning is when I was born. It was in Nazi Germany, 1943, in Berlin, in the epicenter of Nazi Germany. And I was an illegitimate child. And that was taboo in Nazi Germany, to be illegitimate. And also deemed stateless. With other words, no country would have me. I had no country. I belonged to no country. And on top of it, my mother gave me, and I have to begin, first of all, my mother was the most loving, devoted mother. Everything was chaotic in our life, but my mother gave us love and instilled the best values. And I think that I'm forever grateful. And she gave me the name Vivianne in French, Vivian in English. And that again was taboo because the Nazis hated anything foreign. You know, they were ready to do away with you. Foreigners, they did not, you know, I swear, I believe that had Germany won the war, had the Nazis stayed in power, I would have been eliminated as well. I'm sure of it, because the whole history. But nonetheless, I actually only remember the time after the war, the aftermath of the war, because I was too young during the war. And the aftermath, it was just a constant hunger, cold, a destroyed city, and a big struggle, especially for my mother, who had two illegitimate children. My sister, by another father, was also illegitimate. And so she was a real survivor. She survived by working in the black market, striking deals, anything to keep her children afloat.
Wow.
And a real brave soul. And so eventually I remember as I started school, which struggled terribly in school, even though I wanted to do my best. I struggled. I could not understand the concept of the teacher, and was condemned to my mother as dumb, and had to repeat the first grade. And they were pretty brutal. I mean, you know what that does to a child, to hear, that your low self-esteem goes, you have low self-esteem then.
I have a 7-year-old at the moment, and that has been my biggest thing, is preserving and protecting his confidence. So I know his confidence.
The beautiful thing that you do that.
I know I am living in the moment of exactly what you're speaking to right now.
Yes,
so I do.
And that is what, despite of my difficulties in school, there's another thing my mother did. She always believed in her children. And she said, you can do anything, you can be the best. And you believe that as a little child, but as you grow, then you notice, well, maybe it isn't quite like this, and then you have to find your way. And I struggled a lot, but nonetheless, my mother eventually met up with an old schoolmate who just had returned from Siberia. He had been in prison 5 years in Siberia, which was brutal. And then she connected with him, and she brought him home, and they stayed together. And she said one day, now you have a father. And he moved in a little later. He moved in with us. And of course, I was glad to have a father. It's my biggest dream. I wanted a father. Yeah. And even though I knew who my father was, I never got to meet him. I know he was my mother always said he was a fine man he was Hungarian. And he played the piano well. He had a doctorate in law. And he was sent from Budapest to Berlin to go back and forth. And that's how they met, how my mother and father met my biological father. It's really kind of romantic, because my mother was in a nightclub, and someone sent a big bunch of roses over and said, and there was a card attached which said, to whom have I sent these roses? That's how they met and connected. But eventually he went back to his home country in Budapest, because it was the middle of the war. And you know what, if you know the history, Budapest was under siege. And my good friend of my mother's went to Budapest, looked him up at the where he worked, and informed him that I am on my way, my mother is now in my mother's condition, explained my mother's condition. And he said he would definitely look after us and so on. And my mother never heard of him. And so that's kind of a sad story. And later on, when I went to Budapest and I looked, I was so emotional, because I wanted to know about my father. I couldn't find anything out. And it turned out that everything was destroyed. The place where he worked was completely destroyed. There are no records. And so I was very emotional at that time, and envisioned him walking those streets and so on. But so I lived with I finally came to terms. I will never meet my father. But somehow there's an inner strength, an inner strength. I wanted to do the best I could and make the best out of life. I did not want to follow in my mother's footsteps. I wanted to be on solid ground. I wanted an intact family. I wanted to do everything right, exactly the opposite of my mother. But nonetheless, my mother, like I said, a beautiful soul, the values she instilled, that is what is so important.
So
and
is
I'm
that
forever grateful.
That's so, what a beautiful tribute to her. Is she still living? Is she still with us?
No. My mother, I'm now 77, so my mother is long gone. Yes.
So listeners, I know you're tuning in. You can't see Vivianne right now, but she does not look 77. Let me just tell you that.
Well,
babe, looking beautiful. And so you wanted to do everything. You wanted to have stability. It sounds like really.
Yes.
You did. So when you came, was it to Canada? Tell me about, you got the stable job and you were working in the dealership, right? But
at first, I'm sorry, I just had to interrupt. At first, I left school at the age of 14 with a special permit because of the child labor law. So I asked my mother, I want to go to work and help with the family. Because when we lived in Montreal that first winter, we went hungry. My mother had to go into a church, and we explained in our broken English the plight to the priest. And we didn't know the priest. We just walked in there. And he sympathetically gave us $35 to survive, to buy staples. That's how we survived the first winter. Then I decided I want to help my family and let me go to work. And so she obtained the special permit. And it seemed like I got a dream job. It was at a dentist who was going to train me to become a dental assistant. I was only 14, but did not look my age at all. I was already developed and kind of stepped into my beauty, one can say.
Wow.
And so I had the job of cleaning the office. First, I always had to clean the whole office, spick and span. And then by noon, I wore the little cap and the white nurse's uniform. And I looked like a professional, and I liked looking like that.
Yeah.
And one day, a friend of his walked in, and when the doctor was not there, and he made sexual advances and sexually abused me. And myself being so innocent, I struggled with the thought of telling my boss. It was too embarrassing for me, but I did decide to do that. And he was totally on my side. And he said he'll never come in the office again. But I quit. It was just too traumatic. My mother said, no. So I left. And then I started working at the 5 and 10 cent store behind a lunch counter, which I actually liked because I did sandwiches with care and heart. And I always was in me always to serve. I always wanted, what can I do? I've always been that way. What can I do? And then I wanted to improve my station in life. So I went to night school and learned to type and stenography. And I landed a job at VW, Volkswagen Sales and Service in Montreal. And that's there I worked up in the accounting department, which I was excited about. We were in one great big room with a lot of women, but they were all over twice my age. There was no camaraderie, no connection. And I fell into deep depression. And I thought, well, all my efforts are in vain. And I fell into deep depression. And I decided at the age of 17, I decided to end my life. And I heard somewhere that when you go into the garage and close the door and start the motor, and I had bought a little used car, and I had rented a garage in a duplex. It was a small garage. Yes. So I went in there, did just that, closed the garage door, started the motor, and waited for my ultimate end. And then one can say it was a miracle. A little girl stood in front of me while I waited to drift off. A little girl stood in front of me and looked at me, and she said, "What are you doing?" And she must have been around six years old, around that age. I remember her short cropped hair and short dress. And I immediately stopped the motor, opened the garage door, and I just kind of meekly said, "I'm going to wash my car." And then she was gone. And I thought, where did she come from? And she must have come in a side door that I was not aware of. But so I kind of hung on to a glimmer of hope and just continued. And then eventually I got the job as a secretary for the service manager in the service department where customer service was. And I enjoyed that because I like people. I wanted to be around people. I saw customers coming and going, and there was life. There was life.
Yeah.
So I worked there, and one day I was 20. A man walked in, bought a Porsche, and he became my husband. That's how it was. It was kismet. And then we got married, and since I did not have a lot of traditional or conventional schooling, I knew I had a lot to learn, and I was eager to learn. My husband instilled in me that desire more so even, and he always encouraged me to learn and grow. And I just totally followed him. I believed in him, and this is where I am today. And I'm immensely grateful for that, Elisa, because when I turned 75, I decided I'm going to write a book, and I'm going to honor my husband. It was as a gift for his 80th birthday for all that he has done for me. It is truly a beautiful love story. It's truly a beautiful love story. And to this day, we are very happy. We've been married now for 56 years, and I'm very happy. It's our life and our relationship has gotten more and more beautiful. Yes, love has many facets. There's so many more facets. It's not just the physical love. It's also the sense of responsibleness, the sense of responsibility and the nurturing and caring and all this he has. And I have that as well. We always pulled in the same direction, and that brought strengths. That brings strengths in a marriage, You see, and you go into the same direction, but one wants to go here, the other one wants to go there. So yes, and so I learned and advanced. And then I was challenged one more time at the age of 70 when I actually stepped into my own power. My most beautiful life began when I turned 70. Would you believe it?
Wow.
This decade, now I'm almost 78, has been the most beautiful decade of my life. It's when I stepped into my power, the understanding that incredible wisdom that you have after having lived so long. You really understand how to manage your life, how to manage situations, and you become strong in your sense of self and all that.
Yeah.
Yes, unstoppable.
All that taboo of, you're too old, you can't.
That we need to stop that right now, because I'm on my next book, and I'm going to write about the aging process, because I have been one of those fortunate people that have a sharp mind and a fit body and strong. I overcame that cancer. That was found at the early stage. I had the operation, the radiation for 6 weeks, the whole thing. And I overcame that because I changed. I had a mindset. I don't see myself as a victim. I'm going to fight this disease with positivity and hope. And then I became even more grateful. I was immensely grateful that they found it at the early stage. And so I just got stronger and stronger, Lisa.
I love that you just said you did fight it with positivity and hope.
And hope, yes.
Because how would people's lives change if they looked at a challenge or they looked at a situation that they found themselves in and they chose positivity and hope as their tools and their way to look at things? I think that was such a profound statement that you just said.
If we don't have any hope, there's no reason to live. We need hope. Hope is very important. Determination and perseverance are omnipotent. You have to also do your part. You have to use the power that you have within you, and we all have it. God is inside all of us. The question is, are you connected? You have to connect.
Yeah, and that little girl, is there a piece of you that believes that she must have been sent, an angel from above or something?
It seems like it, doesn't it? I did think about her many times, didn't even know her name, but I say there must have been a reason. I really believe, you do wonder, do you come into this world at a certain time and leave it on another? Are we coded? I don't know. But you kind of wonder about these things. But I believe that little girl was sent to me to spread the message of hope.
Yeah,
I really believe that. And this book that I had written, From Rubble to Champagne, as a gift to my husband,
yes.
that is also a book that I've written for other people as well. I want to help those that feel suppressed and defeated, because
yes.
I've been there. And I have a lot, I can help a lot with the right mindset. Anyone can grow beyond their what they are. They can grow further.
Yeah, that you're more than your circumstances.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you have to burrow deep inside. What am I good at? What can I do? And the answer is the true you. The answer is the authentic you. And I've always been a seeker and a searcher. But these are times, Lisa, these are very difficult times right now with the pandemic. Many people are in despair. And I feel, that just shows that we all encompass trying moments and difficult times. And it encourages us to reflect on those powerful qualities that help us survive and prosper. You cannot just say it, because talk is cheap.
Ain't it?
You have to do it.
So what is, so I know you're writing your second book. Is there anything on the bucket list? Like, ran a marathon, piloted a plane, beat cancer?
I think my next book is the next thing on the bucket list. And that would be, that's kind of interesting, because I'm still on the manuscript, but I'm all excited about it because, again, I think it can help people. I'm out to help people. I want to make the world a better place. If one book has a passage or an idea that can change a person's life, it's worth reading it. Definitely. A book can change your life. It has changed my life because I've read books from the great minds, and actually my whole life I follow the wisdom of great minds. Mm-hmm. I live it. They tell you, they help you understand the world, and I live it. And my next book will be probably called Lessons Learned.
Yeah.
And passed on, my life experiences and the wisdom that evolved, with the guidance of these great minds, and my gratitude toward them. I think my first book and my second book will be all about gratitude. And I believe in gratitude. Gratitude is everything.
I love that you wrote that the idea and the inspiration of From Rubble to Champagne, that first book, was a gratitude and a thank you to your husband.
Thank you. Yes.
That is
he deserves it.
What Definitely. Did he think about that? Like, did you go to him and say, "Hey, honey, I want to write a book as a thank you to you," or how did that?
No, I didn't even. I said, my life has been the reason why I actually thought about writing a book. At this point, or since many years already ago, I have to pinch myself and say, is this really me? Am I living this life? Am I living this kind of life? Because it is truly a life from rubble to champagne. You could see, it depends how you define rubble. For me, it was, yes, the rubble, the destruction in Berlin, but you could also define it from when I went with a little metal pail to a department store that had just been rebuilt and asked for scraps so my mother could make soup, and went to the market and got wooden boxes so she could make a fire for us to keep warm. And that you could also see as rubble. But then this is where I came from. These were the circumstances. And now I live the life of luxury, and I feel I want to give back. And I pinch myself, is this really me? And this is a profound sense of gratitude. And I just decided it has been such a tumultuous life. The first 20 years, not quite 20, but maybe 18 years, very tumultuous. then I would say, and now it's all stabilized and beautiful, and I'm so grateful. And then I decided I think I have a story. I think this is almost like a movie, my life. And I wrote the book, and I had the blank pages in front of me. And as I reflected, and I realized I've always realized that, and have thanked my husband many times, how much he's done for me and how he believed in me. For someone to believe in you, then the best comes out. The best comes out. And I think that is what you're doing with your child. Build him up. You can do this. Nothing is ever easy. We have to make an effort. Nothing is ever easy, but you're doing something tremendous for your child's future, the way you are thinking. So then I had the blank pages in front of me, and I said, how do you write a book? And how do you start? And then I just reflected from the beginning on, and it just rolled. It came out. It was very freeing. You felt free. It felt free. And then also I faced this vulnerability. And because you expose yourself, you kind of wonder, is that right? I have a certain standing in society, I would think. And should I reveal everything? But then I thought, we are all connected. People need to be more open. And in order to connect, we become, when we expand that connectedness, we become kinder, gentler people. It builds bridges, and people will know, well, I'm not alone. I'm not the only one that's struggling. She has the same problems. No one is better. No one is worse. We're all one, and connecting is very, very important. Like I said, it builds bridges and brings people together. And the vulnerability is actually courage. It's courage. I'm not afraid to say something. You're not afraid to make a mistake, because there's no effort without error. When you really think about it, for everyone, that is for all of us. So I think vulnerable people are necessary and beautiful.
I agree. And there's an actual physiology that happens in the brain when you tell your stories. You heal yourself in the process.
Self-healing, absolutely.
So that makes complete sense when you said it was actually freeing to get that thing out on the paper.
Yeah.
And I love that you said that connectedness and that story, and that
it is so important,
because that is exactly what we need more of in the world right
now. Yes. Also in this pandemic, let people know, hey, I had my share of troubles, or I have them, but the future is still in place, no matter how bleak things look. The future is always still in place. There's always hope. Life is not static. It changes even when we don't want it to. Like, for instance, I'm going through a hard time. My husband, the love of my life, he's going to be 82. He had open heart surgery 3 years ago, and he survived that. It was all, of course, he did not have the same lifestyle, could not, because he was always an athlete and passion for tennis. And all of a sudden he couldn't play at that level anymore. He had to play much lower, and the weakness, he felt a sense of loss at that time, I'm sure. And then just recently, now he has renewed heart problems, which look serious. And I also want to write this chronicle this development in my book, how to deal with this. Many people have to deal with this. And I think there's so many ways we can still have a meaningful and beautiful life, even though we have lost a lot. But whatever you lose, you gain something else. There's always the beautiful wisdom, and your family, and there's always something there. And this is my philosophy. Look for the good. Look, when everything looks bleak, where can I find a little crumb of good? And I find that little crumb of good and build on it. And I think that's a mindset. And that is, we are challenged many times, and all those challenges just fortify us. I'm glad, as hard as it was for me, Lisa, I'm glad I went through these challenges, because they made me what I am today, the most grateful person, and a mature person, mature, and I can give back, because through all my hardship, I've learned, and I can help others. And I hope with this next book, I will be able to do that. And also the process of aging, for me, like I said before, I'm one of the fortunate ones to be healthy in mind and body. But I also believe that our body is a sacred garment. We need to take care of it. Sometimes you don't have the power to do that, because there are higher forces. There's a higher power that decides that you can call it God, which is God, of course, that decides, are you going to be ill? Like my husband had lived a very healthy life, but it's hereditary. Yeah. And so it's just one of those things. And that's why I say the whole process of the aging, that when people say, oh, no, I'm old, they see it, some people even see it as a disease, and they retreat. And there's so much there. There's so much an emerging energy to do something new that you haven't done before. You just have to you have to be inspired. When you are inspired, a dormant force is awakened, and then age speaks forcefully. And I think maybe I see this so well because I've always been a seeker and a searcher, and I pay attention. I pay attention, and also when we pay attention, we enter into a full rapport with life.
I love this.
So I think that's really very important. And so I also think always ahead. I enjoy the present. We need to, say yes to the present. So many people today, they live such a hectic life, with the computer, cell phones, commitments, deadlines, and all that. They have no time to pause and get back to themselves. Yeah. So it is important that we get back to ourselves. Yeah, so that's I definitely think ahead also, even though I enjoy the present, I live the moment, because if we don't, many people live like the present is an obstacle they need to overcome to get to the next one. That's how they live. Not me. I do think of the future. We do somehow have to look at the future and see what's ahead of us and be prepared for it. And even in aging, even when you have enough financial security, there are other things. How do I want to age? I don't want to just get old. I want to age well. Right. And so make the best of that. So it's like retirement. People retire, and some people retire. They have great jobs or high positions even at times, and they don't prepare for retirement. They have no leg to stand on. Then comes depression because there's this emptiness, this void. So we need to prepare. We need to think ahead, but live the moment. Live the moment.
I love that. I love some of the, rules to live by that you have of.
Yeah, and they work. They work.
Being a seeker, Lisa, and a searcher, looking for the crumb of good, fighting with positivity and hope, having gratitude. Oh,
yes.
Those are like.
And think good thoughts. Think good thoughts, Lisa, because the thoughts increase. I, for instance, I'm definitely at this stage where I've always wanted to be a kind and good and compassionate person. When you're young, though, you don't see quite so deep. You have such a much better understanding now. But I won't allow any unloving thoughts to emanate from my consciousness. I just won't. And you are what you think. Those are not empty words. They're not empty words. You are what you think. That just gets bigger and bigger. And if you think positive thoughts, you become a positive person. And I think it's almost like the good things attract the bad things attract. You know, you have you have two energy fields. You decide which one do I want to be on, the negative or the positive. For me, there's only positive.
Amen.
And I live at this time, I live like every moment is that special moment.
I love
and
that.
You don't need big things. The small things are very often the big things.
I love that. So where can people get this lovely book, From Rebel to Champagne?
I can even show it to you. It is, do you see it here?
I do.
See, here you see the ruins of Berlin. And down here, that is the champagne. This is now. So yes, you can get it. People can get it on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Goodreads, and also I also have a website, which is www.vivianneknebel.com.
Okay.
And I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, I'm everywhere.
Amazing. So I will make sure to put all of those links, how to get the book, how to find you on your website and social media in the show notes. So listeners, don't worry if you weren't able to scribble that down or not sure how to spell Vivianne's name. We will get it all there for you.
Thank you.
It's funny because people always say to me that I'm like this, dose of positivity and energy that makes you want to get out and do something. And you've been such a dose of positivity and energy to me on this podcast. But
that's all about, that's beautiful. That's really very nice. And you the same for me. I see a smiling, radiant face. I see that positivity come through. And if you are that way, you will attract that. You will attract that. It's just a law, a natural law.
I love it. Absolutely. So thank you for spreading that positivity and hope and such a beautiful story, a vulnerable, true, real, raw, beautiful story today with my listeners. And I'll make sure I get all the notes of how they can get connected to you more, buy your book. But
the idea is, Lisa, the idea is these are all good advice. It's all good advice. But it's very important that you live it, because it's like having a philosophy. Philosophy is useless to you if it's merely the awareness and teachings of the masters and teachers. It has, in order for it to work for you, it has to become an energy pattern that you use every day of your life. You have to do it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And don't give up. I say to people, don't give up. Nothing is done overnight. But with determination and perseverance, you'll get there. Anyone can. If I can, having been the weakest link, and then I think anyone can. I wish it for everyone. A life of peacefulness and gratitude, and that is the beauty of life, to have that.
Absolutely.
A fully lived, peaceful, appreciated life.
I love that.
That is what we want, what everyone wants. I think.
Vivianne, you are the perfect picture to say that the best is yet to come. Keep going. And
I think so.
Live all of that. So thank you for being here with me today. Listeners, thank you so much for being here and tuning in. I hope Vivianne's story inspired you. And so glad that you're here. So glad you tuned in. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much, Lisa. And thank you for allowing me to have a voice.
Thank you for using your voice and your story for good. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Lisa. Bye-bye.